at paulharrell.com.
Joining us now, welcome back to the program. Senator Brian King is with us. Brian, welcome back.
Hey, good to be on, Paul.
So glad.
And congratulations, too, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yes, new father. It was a great weekend to get to know my daughter a little bit more. Man, it's just even weird to say that, if I'm being honest about it. So, Senator King, I wanted to have you back on because, number one, we had the tragedy in Little Rock, the nightclub shooting. You're familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so shortly after that, we've got public outcry, and we have yet the announcement from Governor Asa Hutchinson of another task force to try to deal with this. What are your thoughts on the new task force?
Well, I mean, the law enforcement agencies that are involved in this, I mean, certainly when I made my comment about Governor Hutchinson, what he was doing, it wasn't anything about them because, quite frankly, they're doing all they can. And, is there always some way that they can work together or not? I would suspect that they were already working together. But this is just another Asa Hutchinson tactic. I mean, I've sent you, texted you, and then on tweets to the news media to show where the FBI statistics has shown how violent crime was climbing since 2011. And in 15, we warned the governor about spending, and as you just talked about, if you just keep increasing Medicaid, it's going to crowd out where we can't fund other things to take care of other problems. Sit there and told him about that. He has done nothing. He's the all-time in the last 2 years. He will be the all-time record holder for Arkansas governors in Medicaid spending, bar none. He's number one. He's taken over that title from Mike Beebe, and kept warning him about that. And if you look at the last budget, whenever some money come in, or the DFA is probably shifting some money around to make their year-end numbers look like they're barely ahead. Isn't it amazing how they just come up, Paul, $15 million above forecast, just barely? Okay, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and everything's rosy now, right? Everything's fine.
And everything. On a $5.5 billion budget, we're $15 million surplus going into next year. I mean, that's like no surplus, despite, as I keep saying, we're not in a recession.
Let me ask you this on that: why not? I mean, if we were able to cut $70 million. And the governor said no vital services were going to be affected.
I can't figure that out either. I can't figure out how we were able to cut $70 million and no services or no jobs are being eliminated. But now we're putting it. But if you read it, $43 million was going to the Medicaid trust fund. There's that word again, Medicaid. Remember that. And if we $43 million, if we had $43 million to put towards public safety and law enforcement. Let me tell you something about those press conferences, those people, those entities. They need help. They needed help 2 years ago when Asa Hutchinson ignored and shut out the people that were warning him about Medicaid and how it was going to be unsustainable. He said it was sustainable and then turned around and said it's unsustainable, and then he increases the appropriation bill.
And now he's begging the Senate. He's begging John Bozeman and Tom Cotton.
Yeah, he's begging for more money. Don't cut my money.
Yeah.
So $43 million, Paul, we could hire 200 law enforcement officers to go out here. We could substantially increase pay for state troopers to help retention because we're lower paid than our surrounding states to our state troopers. We could increase probation and parole officers, which have been overburdened and underpaid. Okay, I know Brian King's been for cutting it, but I tell people all the time, like when it comes to government, I'm for spending your money responsibly. And I sit there and say, do you want to put dangerous people away that don't accept rehabilitation or responsibility? Do you want to put them away and make your streets safer? Yes, I'll spend my money for that, maybe even highways. But that last $43 million of Asa Hutchinson did not go for public safety. It didn't go to back our law enforcement officers out here and increase the pay, give them more money and tools and resources, and our probation and parole officers. It went to Obamacare and Medicaid trust fund. It didn't go to highways, to keep bridges from falling down. I mean, it didn't go to that.
Yeah.
He sent it to Medicaid.
I'm reading here. This is a tweet from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette back in November of 2016. With Arkansas prisons over capacity, early release approved for more than 700 inmates. And then, of course, I see tweets about the violent crime rates that have been increasing over the years up to 2015. And then we have...
Pretty easy to see we had a problem growing, didn't it?
Yes. It was upticking at an alarming rate. Household poverty and non-fatal violent victimization from 2008 to 2012. Those numbers were on the rise as well. Then we have some tweets here, some other tweets. People saying we don't need new laws. We need to crack down on those breaking the law. A quote from
that was Asa Hutchinson.
Asa
Hutchinson sit there in the press conference. I sent you the pictures where he said we need to crack down on. He's just early releasing the same people he says he's going to crack down on.
Yeah, that was.
This is the most misleading.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media
Hey,
Group.
folks, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. And if you want to help us out, you want to contribute to that, one of the ways you can do that is to call us or text us. The phone number, 870-275-9799. That is the telephone number. Watch out, folks. The Russians are going to get you. The Russians are coming for you. They're going to get you. I think that's what the Russians felt like if Hillary Clinton had been elected president, though, right? I think the Russians felt like Hillary Clinton's coming to get us. I think that was pretty obvious. And now everyone's acting like it's a huge deal that, in many cases, what we already know. The Russians, of course, would not have wanted a Hillary Clinton presidency, just like the Ukrainians didn't want a Donald Trump presidency. I've got a article here from the Politico back on January 11th. Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire, and now Kiev officials are scrambling to make amends with the president-elect after quietly working to boost Hillary Clinton. You see, this happens all the time, ladies and gentlemen. But that's not to even say this modern story, this news story. You don't really have the New York Times doesn't really produce evidence that this Russian attorney was in fact that they claim she's a Kremlin attorney, but they do not. That'd be like saying anyway. They don't really produce any evidence to say, hey, look, this is for certain someone who's tied to the Kremlin. But anyway, and there's a ton of people, talking about how this was a Democrat. This was the Democrats or people connected to people in our government were kind of setting this whole thing up. And I really don't know anything about that. All I know is this is really I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. They want the most unthinkable thing happened in their minds and in many of our minds. Donald Trump won. Hillary Clinton lost. It can't possibly be because of their policies. It has to be because they were traitors. That's really what they want you to think. Well, it was because they were traitors. They want this groundswell of the silent majority to have an asterisk by it for all time, which is, but he had the help of the Russians to do it. That's really what this is all about. And in many cases, they want to wish this to be so, and, it's going to slowly drip out, and I'm sure there's going to be more and more, and who knows? I mean, the Trump campaign probably had meetings with people from all over the world, and maybe some more from Russia. I don't know. Let me introduce you to, once again, I've got somebody on the phone I want you to talk to, just to kind of put some perspective on this. This is Sam Taylor is on the line. Sam Taylor is a CPA in the great state of Arkansas. Sam, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad you could come on. I'm trying to kind of process this whole Trump Russia collusion. They're now saying, "Oh, is this the first hard evidence of collusion?" No, it's not. Before I get specifically to your experience, Sam, what's your general take on this right now?
Well, my overall opinion is this is just a full-blown witch hunt. Sour grapes from the left, they can't accept reality in most cases. People know that, but this is just nothing more than a witch hunt of, it's going to go away, then something else pops up. They don't want it to end because they don't want to talk about the real issues. They want to talk about how Daddy Trump cheated and how he shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. So it's nothing more than something, it's a distraction to the real issues at hand.
Yeah, and if it keeps going, we're going to be 2 years in, and we're going to be a year in, then 2 years in, and we're not going to have any of the key policy discussions and debates that we really want to have, which is essentially rolling back the size of government. That's kind of where we want to get. But specifically, you have a story, and you actually, I believe, did you called in from last year at the Republican National Convention? Didn't you come on the show to talk about Ted Cruz's speech and the whole controversy with it? Okay. I'm just making sure.
Yeah, I sure did.
Okay, so you went. You're based in Arkansas, but you went as a guest of the Louisiana Republican delegation. So you were kind of sitting with them in the convention center as the convention went on. Correct?
Right. So we were. So there's the floor, and then there's the what they call first level, and we were on the second level, which is the equivalent to the nosebleeds and the queue is what they call the arena there that the Cavaliers play basketball. But we were situated right dead center, so we had a perfect center view of the stage and everything. And as we're sitting there, just enjoying the festivities and whatnot, notice this guy sitting in front of us with his wife, a real sleek, silver-haired guy who had a bunch of plainclothes people around him, but I didn't really know who he was. We sit there through the first day, didn't say anything, and the second day we get there, he's in the same spot, and we sat behind him again, and we finally got the notion to ask who he was. We didn't ask him directly, but we asked one of his.
He had bodyguards, right?
Plainclothes people, right? Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So his name was I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Geert Wilders.
Yeah. Yep.
He ran for Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and narrowly was defeated. But how their political system works, basically, you're the party leader, and you get the number of seats based on how much of the vote you get. I'm not sure, but he lost just barely. But as we were talking to these people, they didn't know who we were, but they were like, is there any way that you could get us a meeting with Trump? Yurt really wants to talk to him and share some ideas and whatnot. And that kind of ties back into this situation, where in any kind of election, especially the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, you're going to have world leaders from all over wanting to talk to him, get his ear, have his attention, to give whatever spiel, whatever help they can offer for favors down the road, whatever. That's just commonplace. So the fact that the left is coming after Trump for meeting with some random Russian lawyer is just ridiculous.
I got to tell you, this is why the story was so interesting, and I feel like it brings context. I mean, a lot of people already know this, but I mean, he's sitting there. So you're sitting there in Cleveland, and you want to know who this silver-haired guy is. We were just throwing some photos up there so people could get a look at him. Wikipedia article, and the how he narrowly lost the election there in the Netherlands. Geert Wilders, this guy, very outspoken about radical Islam and the dangers of immigration. So it's there's no question as to why he's a Trump supporter. And so what you're saying is you guys are just guests inside a Republican delegation from Louisiana, but there were people saying, "Hey, can we get a few minutes? Can we get 30 seconds? Can we get 2 minutes with Donald Trump?" Like you guys are going to be able to make that happen. I mean, that just kind of shows you the kind of culture that this this political system kind of creates.
Right, and I think of it kind of like lobbyists in Washington. They're just dying to get to talk to a congressman or senator. They're not ever really going to get face-to-face time without having to go through their staff members first. Just thinking that us, two random people in the audience have the pull to, set up a meeting with Donald Trump. It's just funny, but it's like you said, it's indicative of, who knows how many other, people like him were in the audience there that, people like me had no idea who they were because I had to Google him myself before I knew who he was.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I mean, I like how we're talking with Sam Taylor. He's an Arkansas CPA. He was at the Republican National Convention, and he's, recounting this story. I like how you use the word lobbyists because, as much as I, talk about the pitfalls, the how bad the special interests are in lobbyists, there's nothing illegal about being a lobbyist. There's nothing illegal about your industry, trying to get something from the government. I happen to disagree. I wish we would just be left alone. I wish we had barriers to that, to where we, the government just can't do these certain things. It was a limited government, but that's not the reality that we find ourselves in. The similar situation happens globally with all of these, nationalists, from other countries are wanting to say, hey, I just would like to meet this guy in case he pulls it out. And like I said, I opened the show by talking about how the Ukraine, they were on Hillary Clinton's side. And by the way, if you start to kind of dive into that, you'll remember there was that whole dispute, with the Ukraine and with the elections and whether or not, America was in there trying to subvert some things, and then Russia, they have their interests and everything else. And I am not by any means suggesting that Russia's interests are benign. I don't believe that at all. But there's just so much here, and just a simple story that you told provides a lot of context that the mainstream media is just going to completely leave out. I mean, they want you to think there was some, Mission Impossible style meetings, cloak and dagger, James Bond type stuff to try to steal the presidency. I mean, that's really what they're trying to say is that Donald Trump used the Russians, used this one lawyer to steal the presidency.
Sure, and the fact that everybody is ignoring is Trump Jr. never had a face-to-face with this person. It was an exchange of emails. And there's no telling how many emails are exchanged from campaigns to, world leaders everywhere. There's no telling how much that happened and how commonplace that really is. So, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's just a witch hunt, in my opinion. I think the majority of Americans agree, and they're growing weary of media, ignoring the issues at hand and just continuing on with this, arbitrary witch hunt about Russia. I mean, it's getting worse and worse. I mean, you said, everybody thought that Trump had no chance. Well, that just shows you how disconnected the media is with the American people.
Yeah, and they still are.
All these polls, and they really are. And these special elections that happen, the Democrats are going to gain seats. What happened? People haven't changed since the election. They still feel the same way. They're still upset at the establishment. They want things to change, but the establishment and the media just aren't going to go down without a fight. That's for sure. But it's up to the American people to be smarter than that and not to fall for it. So
yeah, you're exactly right. I was talking. There's a Democrat on one of the, I think MSNBC this morning. He was saying, "Look, this Russia story is not going to take back any of the state houses that used to belong to Democrats but now belong to Republicans. Like that's just not. This is really a big. This is going nowhere. I mean, now that's
right.
You
and
know,
it's not like this is going to get Trump impeached either.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be laws broken and formal charges, not just speculation.
Yeah.
So
what they're really trying to do,
narrative.
Sam, is they're trying to kill his agenda. Because if you make him so tarnished that anything that he supports, you could potentially scare away Congress from wanting to have anything to do with him. And unfortunately, you've got a lot of, quite frankly, I think Bush loyalists and some Republicans in the establishment that don't really believe in conservatism, and so we've got that
John
aspect.
McCain's of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Lindsey Graham, John McCain's, things like that. It's just ridiculous. So we got a lot of work to do. Sam, I appreciate you coming on the program. I appreciate your story there because, again, I feel like I haven't heard that anywhere else. I haven't heard anybody with a firsthand experience of Geert Wilders people trying to get you to get him a meeting with Donald Trump. That's just hilarious.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm happy to share it, and I'd be happy to come on anytime. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Sam Taylor, everybody, Arkansas CPA, calling in on the program. Hey, the phone number is 870-275-9799. Now that we have put for the day this Russia ridiculousness to rest, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to try to keep exposing the concept that a Republican state does not necessarily make us a conservative state in this great state of Arkansas. We're going to take a break. Back in a moment. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Welcome to Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. Well, there's been a little bit of stirring going on in political circles of late, and that is a result of Conduit from Northwest Arkansas releasing their legislative scorecard. And basically, this is just an indication or a scoring of how your legislator voted in this past legislative session. Now, I don't know why some legislators act surprised. I don't know why some got upset. I mean, if you voted conservative, you got a good score. If you voted liberal, you got a terrible score. If you voted somewhere in the middle, you got a score somewhere in the middle. And so how to fix that next time is just vote like the Republican platform, and then vote like you told the people who elected you that you would vote, and you won't be surprised next time. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9799
870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
All right, folks, 870-275-9799. You heard the number there. Here's a text message that we got yesterday, okay? And I want to read it to you because it made me sad. Because it really reveals that the things that we discuss on this program about economic prosperity and Arkansas and the government that we are all wanting to see, the government that we keep voting for, but is, kind of letting us all down. You know what I'm saying? Because they keep growing government. I got this from one of our listeners in the great county of Randolph here in Arkansas. His name is Shane, and Shane writes, "Hey, Paul, I am born and raised in Arkansas. My wife and I are both productive members of society. I work 50 hours a week to provide for my family. I used to love Arkansas. Not anymore." That's pretty sad. Just right there. "Due to our worthless Republican leaders and high taxes, my family and I are moving to Missouri. I have a job opportunity there that pays $31 an hour, which is considerably more than I make in Jonesboro doing the same thing. I am disappointed that it has come to this, but this is the best choice for my family and myself. Good luck, Arkansas. Shane." Well, there's a lot of people who I'm sure have been faced with similar situations in the past. There's an epidemic of a lot of state resources going to educate people, for example, in our state universities, only to have them not be able to find a job here after they graduate and have to move away. Every now and then you can kind of catch a set stump speech by an Arkansas politician here or there who will talk about their children in the construct or in the context rather of tax policy, good economic tax policy, less regulations, things like that. Things that would shrink government, get it out of the way, make room for private sector growth. And you'll hear them say, I want my kids to grow up, go to college, and not have to move away to find gainful employment. I'd like for those opportunities to be in Arkansas. Now, there have been people that have said that before. Many of them, I think, when it comes to the rubber meeting the road, are not very genuine when it comes to actually the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Now, there are some who've given, that speech that I really, truly believe, and I think they meant it. And I think they, in some cases, if they've been given the opportunity, they would have. But this is part of that. This is part of that. And it's just one story, but there's a lot like it. There's a lot of you Arkansans out there right now who, have young children. And you like it here in Arkansas, and you'd like for them to be able to have a lot of great job opportunities. So, for the sake of family values, they don't move away. And guess what? There's a ton of – listen to this. This is the truth. There's a ton of people, I would say the vast majority of people that do graduate from Arkansas colleges who are Arkansas natives, they don't want to leave the state. They don't want to leave the place they love. They'd like to be able to, but they have to, because it just becomes about, how am I best going to be able to take care of myself? How am I best going to be able to take care of my budding family? You know what I'm saying? And that when you put it in those terms, that's, you can kind of get to an emotional place where we say, hey, just on that, that's a reason why, it's one of many reasons why we need these guys to take this seriously. And that's not through tax increases. It's not through putting up a giant, figurative wall to protect the state's egg at all costs. We can't let this government get any smaller. That's not the policies that are going to yada, yada, yada. allow future Arkansans to have way more job opportunities so that they can stay right here in the state and be productive citizens and, guess what, pay taxes.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
It's misleading and deceiving to have a press conference and get up there and say something at the same time he's early releasing people out here that is continuing to cause the problem, and then he acts like these agencies, like we need to get them together and work together. I mean, I felt bad for those entities in that they're doing all they can. I mean, yeah, I'm sure as anything, there's probably some things they could do to work better, but they need more resources. They don't, that's what we need to commit to. And, he sits there and says he's so flip-flopping and deceiving that he sits there and on one hand sits there and says we need to crack down on the bad people doing things. Well, then I'm just going to early release them.
Yeah, tell me about your bill from last session though that would have required people to serve 80% of their sentence for multiple offenders.
Yeah, on 4 time to your corrections. Which, if you're going to 4 time to corrections, you have not accepted responsibility or rehabilitation, and you've had multiple opportunities to do that, then you would serve 80% of your sentence. And the governor came out and fought me on it. You had, of course, J.R. Davis, and they pull out the Bernie Sanders card, the Nancy Pelosi card. Oh my God, you're going to close school down. You're going to do this or that. We don't have the money. J.R. Davis, in his last thing on once again, says Brian King claims to be a good steward of the taxpayer dollar, which I'm still figuring out how all-time record spending Medicaid spender Asa Hutchinson is.
How are they going to criticize you?
Dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he says it just wasn't doable. No, JR, it was doable. But you have to prioritize public safety and our law enforcement people and our overburdened, overworked probation parole people over Obamacare and over Medicaid. This governor hasn't done it. And like I said, it's so frustrating to sit there and see these quotes out there in the media that you would think he's out there doing this and stuff like that. And he's not. He has contributed to the problem. And in 2015, State Senator Jeremy Hutchinson put up a bill. I think I was the only one in the Senate not to vote for it because I knew it wasn't going to do anything. It was an act to increase public safety or something like that, Paul. I mean, it was so, and to reduce prison overcrowding. It was another study. And what has it done? Let me read you the tack. It's Senator Jeremy Hutchinson. An act to be known as the Criminal Justice, here we go with that big word again. I love that they love this word, Reform Act of 2015, to implement measures designed to enhance public safety and reduce prison population. It's to declare emergency and other purposes, which is about in every title. That's what their big thing was in 2015, and it didn't do anything, nothing at all. And once again, you look at the votes, 33 in the Senate. I'm not voting. Glad I didn't vote for it.
It seems like the title. There's a lot of legislators that kind of do get fooled by the title of bills. Do you think that's true?
Oh, if you see reform anymore in a bill, you better vote against it because it's the line. The statistics point to the fact that it isn't the Justice Reform Act of 2015 didn't and to implement.
Welcome back, 870-275-9799. Thanks so much for being with us. I want to remind you guys something. This just came across my Twitter. I've never seen this guy before. He doesn't have a lot of tweets. Okay. His name is Alan on Twitter, Alan Brooks. It's at Alan Brooks 870, and this just came across the hashtag ARPX feed. Okay, where he tweeted just a map of the counties of Arkansas, and it's extremely red. You've of course got the blue counties in the Delta, and you've got then you got Pulaski County there going blue. But then you just look, and the rest of you see that it's just crazy how blue all of that is, or I'm sorry, how red the state of Arkansas is. And he says that ARPX is an echo chamber for leftist Arkansas media. Let me just say that on Twitter, there are so few conservatives, especially in the Arkansas legislature feed and Arkansas ARPX feed. It really is. He's exactly right. That's what got my attention here. The map and his accurate analysis, even though he's only, this account may have just been created. ARPX is an echo chamber for leftist Arkansas media, politicians, and their sheep to mislead and spew propaganda in hopes that voters will notice. We won't. Alan is his name, and he's tweeted 9 times before, right? But he says he is from Arkansas. But it's a very interesting look at that map. Look at that. So in keeping with this whole narrative that, hey, just because that's what our state looks like, those are Republican platform voters right there. The people that live in this state, the people that live in those red counties that you see, it's a ridiculous, what is that, 68 red counties, something like that. Those are all Republican Party platform voters. Represents just a stark mandate for change. A stark mandate for, the way things are going, we don't like the way things were going. Now, I think you've got this Ozark Indivisible. This is another Twitter. Ozark Indivisible of Northwest Arkansas. And they tweet very, kind of left-wing stuff. And right now they're on, like Steve Womack, Representative Steve Womack, Congressman Steve Womack. They're saying, we don't need a wall. We, your constituents, will not support a wall. Talking about a border wall. The only reason I'm talking about this is because on Monday we mentioned just the ridiculousness of these leftists and these George Soros organized groups that are going after congressmen and senators like Bozeman and Cotton and now Congressman Womack and others. And it's so strange to me. We do not need a wall. We, your constituents, will not support it. I just don't understand how you can live in Arkansas. You can be this group on Twitter, Ozark Indivisible. I don't. How can you honestly say that? Do you not understand that you are a vast minority in the state of Arkansas? That you are your opinions are not shared by very many people? And you think what? That somehow your opinion, you're going to sway these people who have won, in some cases, statewide elections, or in some cases, multiple district elections, based on the idea of, hey, you know what, borders should be something that we stand for. Like that's the number one reason the Constitution exists, is so that we have a country, physical boundaries, country. So yeah, we've got a problem with immigration. And so I don't know what's going on here in terms of why this is happening. Because to me, it just seems like it's like a waste of resources. I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate, there are Arkansans who are very liberal Democrats. Matter of fact, the more the Republican Party grows, even if it does grow with big government non-platform Republicans, the more it grows, the less, the more crazies are left on the sinking Democrat ship here in Arkansas. The more hardcore leftist Marxists that they're really going to be. But I'm just wondering, I don't know, go to a swing. Put your resources in a swing state. I guess I just don't get it. I don't get what you think you're going to accomplish. But that's just me. Just like with the people trying to say, oh yeah, Tom Cotton, he's going to. Can you cue up that Tom Cotton audio that I was supposed to play yesterday? Everybody's been saying, even the Arkansas Times, they were saying, Tom Cotton, he's being very silent. And Tom is welcome on this program. He's been on this program before. He's welcome on this program anytime he wants to talk about specifically what's going on in healthcare. But Tom Cotton we shared this on our Facebook page. He did go on the Hugh Hewitt show yesterday morning. Hugh Hewitt, nationally syndicated radio host. And he was asked about healthcare. And, in the light of John Brummett trying to claim that Tom Cotton is going to, try to fix things for Arkansas, in terms of Medicaid expansion and the federal match rate. And, you had Asa Hutchinson, who was begging for more money from the feds because they took the heroin. The federal government paid Arkansas to all of a sudden not care about socialized medicine. And now our governor won't lead us out of it. Instead, he's saying, well, no, we can't have a repeal of Obamacare. But just so you know, here's Tom Cotton yesterday on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Go ahead.
I'm cautiously optimistic, Hugh. I think that most of my colleagues are working hard to try to find a solution where we can get the 50 votes we need, losing only 2 senators at most, to save our healthcare system from the ravages of Obamacare. All of your listeners know that Obamacare is collapsing. We've got more and more states that are losing their insurers altogether. The price of premiums are going to continue to go up, and it's simply unaffordable for the American taxpayer. There's a lot of moving pieces. We've been at home for the last week listening to our constituents, so we'll be back to work this week, and hopefully by the end of next week we'll have aligned around a solution that'll make your health care a little bit better, a little bit more affordable. And every fall, when you get to October and November and open enrollment season, the American people are going to be reminded of just how badly Obamacare has failed, in addition to how much it's cost relative to the predictions. So what we're trying to do is craft a new model of healthcare reform that'll make your care better, make it a little bit more affordable, give you more choices for your particular situations, and help our states design solutions that work for them. Arkansas is very different, for instance, from Alaska or Maine or Florida or Arizona, and we need to give our states more discretion to work on those solutions.
All right, again, and then he goes on, by the way, if you go listen to the full interview, and Tom Cotton actually posted it on his Facebook page, then we shared it on the Paul Harrell Program Facebook page. But he goes on to talk about Ted Cruz's amendment, which would be great to actually help lower our premiums. Ted Cruz's amendment, the one that would say, okay, fine, Obamacare compliant plans, but as long as they sell them, then they can also sell whatever else they want to. So if you want a catastrophic plan, you maybe want low premium but really high deductible. In case you get cancer or something really, really bad, then there you go. You can do that. This whole healthcare thing, the number one thing they have to focus on is they actually have to make healthcare cheaper. And we got to realize that the reason it's more expensive now is because the government got involved, decided to give away a lot of it for free. And the price goes up for that. And unfortunately, is Washington going to quit giving away free stuff? I mean, I think if you go look at what Rand Paul is saying about this, Rand Paul's very skeptical. His new piece over at Breitbart, he writes, I miss the old days when Republicans... But hang on, before we go to Rand Paul, can I just say this? Does that sound like a guy who's not going to vote for the Senate plan to repeal Obamacare? No. So what's John Brummett and what are all these people doing? Now, what you actually think that these people who have run campaign after campaign after campaign on not supporting Obamacare and, in fact, wanting to repeal it? I mean, Tom Cotton went on to say, hey, can we remember that this is the same Senate pretty much that voted not too long ago to repeal the whole thing? Why wouldn't we do at least that now and even call this a more measured approach? He said what we're even debating now is more measured, so why wouldn't we get the 50 votes that we need? It's really, I mean, it was a good interview. Anyway, but Rand Paul is upset because he says they're keeping too much of it. You see, there's a debate here about the taxes that are going to remain. There's a debate here about how much subsidy. Are we really going to talk about more increased government money going to insurance companies and things like that? There's that debate of it. But on this program, we really haven't even talked much about that. This program, we haven't really talked much about that because we've been talking about it in the context of Governor Asa Hutchinson at a press conference begging Tom Cotton and John Bozeman to not, vote for a bill that would put the match rate with the Medicaid expansion to a traditional 70-30 match. And that would because that would cause us to have to say, you know what, able to work adults, they're not entitled to free stuff. Sorry. And that's what's really making people like John Brummett's head explode here. Right? And that's why you have people say, I'm worried. I'm the truly needy. I'm worried that I'm going to lose care. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. The pain point politics continue. Pain point politics. We're talking about able to work adults, most of whom have no dependents, many of whom are not working. It's called a disincentive, folks. It's called, why should I go out and work when I'm getting something for free? Do you take a free peppermint when you walk out the door after you eat at a restaurant? You do. Do you think twice if you have to put some money in and it says like 25 cents and you got it? Yes, you think twice. You think twice about that because that costs money. It's not hard to give away a free product. That's what we're facing. It's very simple. It's basic human psychology. And instead, our governor, who is not a conservative, who is a progressive, let me repeat that. Asa Hutchinson is a progressive. He is a progressive's progressive. He's been in government a long time. He probably thinks, well, this is just, the way it's going to go, and I've got to find a way to keep this government program, and I don't need it to go to a 70-30 match. I need it to stay at a 90-10. Folks, we're not going to be able to pay for the 10%. I'll tell you that much. There's just no way Arkansas will be able to pay for the 10%, even if it stays at 90-10. So we have no chance to pay for the 30. He knows that. This is the bed that we made. This is the bed that non-platform Republican politicians down at the Marble Palace in Little Rock, this is the bed that they made, and now they're really worried that they're going to have to sleep in it. And it's not just them, it's all of us. They have conscripted us, and everything we want to do financially in this state is now dependent on a welfare program that was only supposed to have 200,000 people that now has 330,000 people on it. And our governor is begging Tom Cotton and John Bozeman for more federal money. I mean, it really is. I mean, we have become addicted to it. And the governor is asking the federal government to continue our habit. Here's Rand Paul. I miss the old days when Republicans stood for repealing Obamacare. Republicans across the country and every member of my caucus campaigned on repeal, often declaring they would tear out Obamacare root and branch. What happened? He writes. Now too many Republicans are falling all over themselves to stuff hundreds of billions of taxpayers' dollars into a bill that doesn't repeal Obamacare and feeds big insurance a huge bailout. Obamacare regulations still here. Taxes, many still in place, totaling hundreds of billions of dollars. Insurance company bailouts, those too. Remember when Republicans complained about Obamacare's risk corridors? Remember when we called the corridors nothing more than insurance company bailouts? I remember when one prominent GOP candidate during a presidential debate explicitly called out the Obamacare risk corridors as a bailout to insurance companies. Does anyone else? Now the Senate GOP plan being put forward is chock full of insurance bailout money to the tune of nearly $200 billion. Republicans present company excluded now support the idea of lowering your insurance premiums by giving a subsidy to the insurance company. Remarkable. If the GOP now supports an insurance stabilization fund to lower insurance prices, maybe they now support a new car stabilization fund to lower the price of cars. Or maybe the GOP would support an iPhone stabilization fund to lower the price of phones. The possibilities are limitless once you accept that the federal government should subsidize prices. I remember when Republicans favored the free choice of the marketplace, Rand Paul writes. The Senate Obamacare bill does not repeal Obamacare. I want to repeat that so everyone realizes why I'll vote no as it stands now. The Senate Obamacare bill does not repeal Obamacare, not even close. In fact, he writes, the Senate GOP bill codifies and likely expands many aspects of Obamacare. The Senate Obamacare Light bill codifies a federal entitlement to insurance. With the Senate GOP bill, Republicans for the first time will signal they favor a key aspect of Obamacare, federal taxpayer funding of private insurance purchases. The bill will transfer billions of dollars to people who will then transfer billions of dollars to insurance companies. What a great business model. Encourage the federal government to use taxpayer money to buy a private company's product. Great business model. That is, if you are big insurance. Remarkable. By the way, Arkansas basically did the same thing when we expanded Obamacare using the private option by giving guaranteed premiums monthly to the tune of over $100 million a month to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, a guaranteed taxpayer revenue stream. Kind of sounds familiar. The Senate Obamacare Light bill, Rand Paul goes on, does what the Democrats forgot to do, appropriate billions for Obamacare's cost-sharing reductions, a.k.a. subsidies. Really? Republicans are going to fund Obamacare subsidies that the Democrats forgot to fund? Doesn't sound much like repeal to me. One might even argue it's worse than Obamacare Light because it actually creates a giant super fund to bail out the insurance companies, something even the Democrats feared to do. I was first elected, Rand Paul writes, in the heady days of the Tea Party tidal wave, when tens of thousands of citizens gathered on Central City lawn to protest big government, big debt, and government takeover of health care. This citizenry won in 4 elections. Each time, the GOP establishment told conservatives, we can't repeal Obamacare until we have all 3 branches of government. Finally, in 2016, that came to pass. Republicans now control all 3 branches of government. And the best that is offered is Obamacare Light, keeping the Obamacare subsidies, keeping some of the Obamacare taxes, creating a giant insurance bailout superfund, and keeping most of the Obamacare regulations. Shame. Shame on many in the GOP for promising repeal and instead affirming, keeping, and in some cases expanding Obamacare. What a shame. That's Senator Rand Paul. I don't know what the final product's going to look like, folks, but I'll tell you this much. I talk to people all the time who can't afford their insurance premiums, and they just want to be able to afford their insurance premiums. Practically, if they can find a way to do that, and I don't believe they should do it with, more welfare or more subsidies. This needs to be the government exiting the market. From what Rand Paul is saying, they're doubling down. 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
This is Mother Government. My people. The promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works Obamacare private option, has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues, from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are 2 matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on this subject. Subjects in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody.
Talking, Joe and I during the break, we were just talking about if you could have one prop from any movie for yourself, what would it be? And I kind of surprised Joe because my initial answer, he was like, I've never thought about this before. They're like, Paul, if you could have any prop from any movie, what would it be? And I immediately just say the DeLorean, like the whole thing. And then we kind of were like, well, maybe that's not technically a prop. I mean, we're talking about a working automobile. So I scaled it back and I said, okay, if I could have any prop from any movie ever, it would be the sports almanac from Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah, and I figured it would be something that has to do with Back to the Future for you.
Yeah, definitely. Or the hoverboard, but the hoverboard is not as cool because it doesn't actually work.
Well, what you do is you put it in a case and kind of like prop it up.
Maybe
like, that's cool.
Maybe someday, I'll be able to I'd make it into a workable hoverboard.
Yeah, make it work.
Yeah, but anyway, Joe, you can share yours.
See, when he said the DeLorean, I was like, okay, mine immediately seems really stupid.
yeah. Well, go for it, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. So
what prop would you take?
I could get, okay. So growing up, I'm still one of the biggest Batman fans around, and the Riddler has always been one of my favorite villains. So I would get Jim Carrey's Riddler cane from when he played the Riddler in the Batman movie. And that was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Even though that movie is horrible,
okay,
right?
Like we said, like I told you, like, as a kid, it was a really good movie because you're a kid, you don't understand like what's a good movie, what's a bad movie.
That's true.
It's just a
That's
movie.
true.
But as an adult, it's an awful movie.
So Joel Schumacher is the director in that Batman 3 with Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
and
but
Val Kilmer. It was awful. It was
the
terrible.
Riddler is one of the best characters in the whole movie.
That's fine.
Jim Carrey plays it
to
the T.
But he put nipples on a bat suit.
Hey. And
just go back and look.
Like
it's
that.
Ridiculous. It's a Joel Schumacher. This guy is a weird guy, and the only movie that I think he's directed that I'm a fan of would be A Time to Kill, with Matthew McConaughey. But
which is a phenomenal book, by the way.
Well, yeah, but even if you go watch, I'm pretty sure Schumacher did a Time to Kill. But even if you go watch this, okay, everybody is sopping wet the entire movie. It's in the South, but I mean,
it's in the middle of Mississippi, down in the
I know,
Delta,
but they
like
go way overboard. It's like, okay, I mean, and if you go ask them, they say but between each scenes we had to get sprayed down with like a misting bottle because you got to make sure it's the South and it's Matthew McConaughey all sweaty. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Matthew McConaughey all sweaty, nipples on the bat suit. Are you seeing a pattern here? Are we seeing a little bit of a pattern with Mr. Schumacher?
Very poor directorial decisions.
I think so. Or just very, leading people to a conclusion that, anyway, that third Batman, just one of the worst films ever. So, We have to go to break. We have one more hour coming your way next. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Implement measures designed to enhance public safety. Didn't do that. And reduce prison population. No, it didn't reduce prison population. The only way it reduces prison population is they're letting bad people back out on the street.
Yeah.
That overburden and make our law enforcement people have more to deal with as long as our probation parole officer people.
So, I mean, you would say definitely that we have a crime problem here in Arkansas now.
Yes.
It's been one. It's kind of this thing that we're not going to deal with it until it's an issue. Now that it's made. Now it's an issue. Now that we have
once
potential.
it hits the headlines and the TV screen,
right?
And Asa Hutchinson has to.
The reaction the reaction is okay. Well, we'll just do another task force. It's like, do people go to bed at night easier because ASA's formed a task force on this? I mean, I think a lot of them maybe don't know the history of these task forces. I'm sick of governing by task force. You say, look, we just had a task force. It was called the Arkansas Legislature where this bill failed. It's pretty frustrating, and yet the only little bit of negative press that I see out there is from ArkansasMatters.com, where it's quoting you. State Senator calls new law enforcement task force delay and deceive tactic. But everybody else seems to just be quoting Governor Hutchinson back, saying, I'm going to do something about this crime problem, and yet you're saying, look, we've known this is an issue for a while. We knew it was an issue last session, and they just refused to address it because we don't have any money to spend on what I think most people would say are higher priorities than, say, welfare programs for people who are able to work adults.
That's exactly right. And, once again, you don't see it in the media. It has to be me out there. And, once again, you'll get Bob Ballinger doesn't, if you just don't go down there and trumpet and sit there and be a get-along, go-along person and allow this to get better. I mean, folks, like I said, we go back to 2011 when I didn't vote for Governor Beebe's Public Protection Act. Okay? It just overburdened our probation and parole people out there so much, and it makes it harder on those people out there trying to do the right thing, those people that get up and go to work every day for state government in a difficult area that don't get paid what they should get paid. And they sit there and over these politicians down there sit there, and then when you have something like that happen, Asa Hutchinson gets up there, and you know what, folks, I sit here, Paul, and they listen in on my radio interviews, and I'll sit there and say, JR, Governor Hutchinson, whoever else, if I'm wrong on the facts, Paul, I sent those tweets out this morning. I was on the news on that, calling that out. If I was factually incorrect about anything, I think they'd already be hounding me trying to get, a retraction or explain what I want to do. But, no one in the media down there sits there and questions him. So, well, Governor, you say it's tough to crack down on these people. Why are you letting these people early out of prison?
Because we don't have the money, right? I mean, wouldn't that be
the
answer?
Money. He doesn't have the money. He has the money, Paul. He just prioritizes it on, guess what? Medicaid.
Real quick, what's your take on before we go? What's going on in D.C. and what's the governor is out there with a press conference a couple of weeks ago, and he is essentially now saying, look, there's just no way we can afford.
Don't cut my money.
Yeah. So what's I'm hearing from some D.C. sources saying, look, whether it happens in this bill or it happens at some other point, I mean, there's just no way the federal government can sustain this level of Medicaid expansion spending. Are you hearing anything similar?
That's what's going to happen. And if Republicans don't start trying to make real reforms, I've contacted our federal delegation. I'm like, if you guys do not make real reforms, you will be thrown out of office. They don't realize, they just sit there and talk and talk. If you don't make real reforms and start trying to do real things that are difficult to do, if you just do the Asa Hutchinson thing of saying, you know what, I don't care what I put on the national debt. I don't care. Asa Hutchinson doesn't care what debt and looting the next generation. All he wants is enough money to patch things together to get reelected on. That's all he does. And if Republicans don't do that, I got elected in 2006 when Republicans got thrown out of office. And I remember that, Paul. I remember knocking on people's doors, and they sit there and saying, Brian, I'm not going to vote for Asa Hutchinson running for governor. I'm not going to vote for Republicans. These were good people, conservative people, the top backbone of people that go out and vote and make the Republican Party what it is, the base people. But I'm not going to vote. I'm begging you, just go vote for me, give me a chance, and I'll try and stay the line. And I have. And unfortunately, Asa Hutchinson, as we found out with Josh Miller, he's going to go out and try and get opponents against people that go out there and tell the truth about what he's doing. They want yes people and everything like that.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media
Hey, folks,
Group.
welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. This is hour number 2. My name is Paul. I'm so glad that you're with us. We can't do the program without you. Hey, one of the ways, if you want to contribute to this building of a Liberty machine, not only can you call us at the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, 870-275-9799, but you can also go online and buy our Liberty Machine T-shirts. Building a Liberty Machine T-shirts on sale at paulharrell.com. That's Paul, HARRELL.com. Joining us now to talk about the just events of the day, we have the myth, the man, the legend. State Representative Josh Miller is with us from District 66. Josh, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thank you, Paul. There's probably more myth and man than legend, but I like that intro. That's pretty.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, the legend is that you are so opposed to some of the big government growth down there that you just take a piece of duct tape and tape the no button on your desk, so you don't really have to vote it. You don't have to push it anymore. You get so tired of hitting the no button.
That's exactly right. I saw a tweet from some knucklehead former legislator a while back that was accusing somebody else of not being down there to make hard decisions. And my thought was, I have yet to see a hard decision. I told my district that, I was going to oppose big government spending and spending money we don't have, and that I was going to adhere to basic fiscal conservative principles. And I've yet to see a tough decision. I mean, you look at these budgets, well, that's an easy decision. They're crap, vote no. So anyway, I don't know. It's probably a whole lot more thought goes into it than what actually has to, but most of the time they're easy to see.
Yeah, well, hopefully there'll be more, maybe there'll be more duct tape that we can, hand to different legislators. That'd be great.
Well, I've got several rolls, and they come in multiple colors. Folks can have a color of their choice. Just put it on the no button. It's
easy. So, Josh,
this call is now being recorded.
Well, we've got. Are you there, Josh?
I am.
Okay, all right. Sorry, we just heard that the call's now being recorded, so you must have hit a button to record the conversation. Uh-oh.
I don't know. I don't know what that was.
Okay, well, who knows? I guess it's the NSA listening in. I don't know what's so important.
Well, good. I'm not above hacking them off either.
Okay, so Josh Miller, we haven't talked to you in a while, but a couple of weeks ago before the holiday, the Governor Asa Hutchinson, he gave a press conference, and he kind of talked a little bit about this Obamacare repeal process that's going on in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to get your take on it. Did you listen to Asa's press conference?
Actually, I was busy working that day as a taxpayer. No, sir, I did not. I thought, I just didn't. And honestly, I heard about it. I heard some clips of it. And is this just blah blah blah? Keep our money coming in. Don't do anything that's going to hurt Arkansas. Blah blah blah. By the way, I still hate Obamacare. Is that about sum it up?
Yeah, that is. I think he said he still disliked Obamacare at the beginning, but then there's the then there's the but, after that is
right,
and it kind of negates. And it was really crazy because they really are trying to eat their cake and have it. When Ace is saying he still believes Obamacare is bad, and yet he doesn't want a third of it to go away in the form of funding for the money that's coming to Arkansas. So what about what about that? I mean, are you surprised that we're to the point where we're talking about trying to repeal it, and it is a lukewarm repeal if it's anything, and it's still, you have Asa to the left of the United States Senate saying, please don't?
Well, I assume since you asked me, you all know my thoughts, and so I'll give them to you. And here they are. For one, and I said it a while back, that what Asa Hutchinson was going to wind up doing is putting our congressional, our federal delegation in a bad spot. And that's exactly what he's done. Senator Cotton and Senator Bozeman.
Hang on one second.
Calling private.
Sorry, Josh.
Okay.
You just broke up there just for a minute. We may have just a little bit of a bad connection at times. But go ahead. We did get the part about federal delegation is in a bad spot.
Right. I believe that he has put them in a bad spot. And, I believe Senator Bozeman, Senator Cotton ought to call him privately and ask him to please hush, because I believe that both of those gentlemen have campaigned on the principle of repealing Obamacare. I believe that both of them, I've heard both of them speak publicly numerous times, and they talk about we need to repeal it and we need to replace it. We've got to do something. We cannot afford to continue going down the same path. And then here we have Hutchinson, basically begging them, saying, well, if y'all do what you said you were going to do, you're going to really upset a bunch of my big donors. And please don't do that. And, there's going to be some folks in Arkansas that lose their free ride, and we just can't have that happen. And so, I mean, that's the way, when you step back and look at it from just a redneck point of view, that's the way I see it. I think, I really think the governor is doing our federal delegation a disservice by getting out and doing what he's doing now, because those gentlemen have all campaigned on the principle of repealing Obamacare.
Yeah,
so has
right.
every other Republican that I've known of in the state of Arkansas in the last 6 or 8 years.
Yeah, and what you're exposing, we're talking with State Representative Josh Miller. We have talked about the divide within the Republican Party many times on this program. The Arkansas Republican establishment wants to ignore that divide within the Republican Party, but what this move by Asa is signaling is it's exposing that Arkansas's version of republicanism in the leadership won't fly nationally. It hits this brick wall. It's not compatible with what for example, Senator Bozeman and Senator Cotton stand for, and that to me is it's kind of out in the open for everybody. You would think there would be some people, statewide media, writing about this, but instead they're not, because I think they really do believe in the big government that has grown to its current size, and they want to keep it that way.
I don't disagree with your assessment at all. I believe that, like I said, what our two senators need to do is hit the shady button every time our governor calls, because he's going to wind up putting them in a bad spot. And I'm being serious about that, man. There's just there's no excuse for it. Yeah, I mean, we've all campaigned and wished, I wish we had a Republican legislature, a Republican Congress, Republican Senate, and a Republican in the White House who is willing to repeal Obamacare and try to replace something that's more affordable. And, and hey, like him or not, President Trump is there, and he's saying, get it to my desk and I'll sign it. And so now these, the I guess, is on our Senate to do just that. And then they've got to deal with Governor Asa Hutchinson, who is starting to sound a lot like Governor John Kasich, which I don't really think is a good thing.
John Kasich,
and it's just a joke, man. I tell you, the whole thing is a joke. These guys, I mean, how can you, just like you said, you can't have your cake and eat it too? And if you can't, how can you? And they're trying to figure out how we can, and we just can't. We can't do it as a state. We can't do it as a federal government anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody we sign up in Arkansas, we're not even signing up on the backs of taxpayers anymore. We're signing up on the backs of future taxpayers who are going to have to pay it back to China, which is never a good spot to put our country.
We're talking with State Representative Josh Miller. I haven't had you on in a while. There's been some other developments that I'd like to get your thoughts on. Number one, the tax farce and Tim Griffin. Tim Griffin sending them a letter urging them to do meaningful tax reform, not revenue-neutral tax reform, and even get spending under control. Did you follow that story at all? And are you pleased that we at least have somebody who's out there saying we have a spending problem in Arkansas?
Absolutely. I have followed the story a little bit, and I haven't been involved with the tax whatever it is now. Is it blue ribbon, red ribbon? What week is it? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
The color changes. Rainbow colored task force.
Rainbow. That's right.
Anyway, the rainbow colored task force, what I'm gonna call it. Anyway, last I heard, they've already hired a consultant to do the work. Well, I mean, good Lord, what a joke. We're the task force. The legislature's the task force. We had multiple tax cut bills that never made it out of committee last year because, we can't pay for them. Well, you don't have to pay for a cut. I called Lieutenant Governor Griffin, and I tell you what, I will say this publicly right now: if the Lieutenant Governor wants to jump in and primary our current governor next year, I'd like to be one of the first ones to write him a check and sign up to help on his campaign. I completely respect the man who's willing to actually dig in and get something done. And then, Lord have mercy, we got to do something different than we're doing now. And folks like myself and Senator Brian King and others, at times we just feel like we're the lone wolves howling in the midnight. Nobody hears us.
Yeah,
so I am proud of the Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you say that. A lot of people are proud of Tim Griffin. A lot of people, they find his willingness to go out and advocate for conservative principles and ideas very refreshing, because he does it in a shameless way. He does it in a way that he knows and is confident that the people of Arkansas are on his side, and that's because they are on his side. You know what I mean? So it is incredibly refreshing. Wow. I mean, that's. There have been people. There's whispers of people that they say, "Hey, I'd love for Tim Griffin to primary Asa," and State Representative Josh Miller, you're saying you'd be the first to cut him a check, huh?
I would be honored to be the first.
That's
Absolutely.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
I'm gonna tell you, if I can, real quick, what Lieutenant Governor Griffin is talking about what he's doing, that's what the folks in the state of Arkansas have voted for the last 3 election cycles, and they've been let down. All these districts, representative districts, Senate districts, I mean, you're in one up there in Jonesboro. Folks elected John Cooper up there to go up and actually do something and not just go along with status quo. Unfortunately, he let down that Senate district.
Yep.
And that's happened all over the state. Folks came out in droves and voted for Governor Hutchinson, and they've been let down. And he brag about poll numbers, and wow, I mean, that's really great if Hendrix College does you a poll amongst wide voters of 500 people, and your favorability rating is up there. I'm sure they polled mainly moderate Democrats. College has never been known for being a stalwart of conservatism in our state, so I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that. I think the governor would be might be in a little bit of hot water if he was primaried by a candidate who had the ability to compete with him.
Yeah, well, I think you're certainly right about that. I mean, I don't anticipate it happening. I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, but I mean, I don't anticipate that happening. But again, it is extremely refreshing to see, Tim Griffin, going out and actually, advocating for the policies that people in the establishment leadership don't seem to want to advocate for. And so, I mean, but very interesting points, State Representative Josh Miller. Appreciate you coming on the program as always. You always do a great job, so I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, it's always an honor to be on, Paul. I appreciate you, man. Y'all keep up the good work.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Be safe. Folks, we're going to take a break. 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
This is Dan Sullivan with the Liberty Moment. Government is not the author or source of our rights, and you don't make America great again by giving one man in Washington all the power. You make America great again by recovering a constitutional republic where Washington is populated by people who are servant leaders who want to return power to the people and communities. Because what makes America great again in this country are its Rotary clubs, small businesses, churches, schools, fire departments, and little leagues across this land. God bless the people who hear this truth. Senator Ben Sasse.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
Fighting dependency on government so Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What a great interview with State Representative Josh Miller. If you missed it, he just said he would want Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin to primary Asa Hutchinson. He would cut him his first check if he did. You hear whispers of that everywhere. I don't expect that to happen because I don't think that Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin is interested at this point in doing that. But who knows? You know what I mean? The one thing I failed to ask Josh Miller, we ran out of time, was just this. We mentioned the spending problem in the context of Tim Griffin's letter to the task force. But what does he think about cutting the $70 million and then adding $60 million of it back in? Of course, he never actually cut. He was cutting from an increase, but just this idea of this revenue problem, and it really all comes down to money. The fact is, and this is a fact, but if you had enough money and the money would be used to just present the people of Arkansas with the facts of what Governor Asa Hutchinson has done and what he's advocated for and what he's signed and things like that, it'd be very easy to defeat him. Just on the facts, right? Because all Asa would have is what he campaigned on the first time, which is just ridiculously broad platitudes. And some of them he couldn't even say anymore. Second Amendment, I think he'd have trouble. I think he'd have trouble. It certainly would have trouble with the whole Obamacare thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be. But to actually, if there was money available to actually say, hey, did you know that Asa, in order to protect us from the Zika virus and mosquitoes breeding in tires, created a massive new program and raised your taxes on tires, created a new tax on tires so that we could create the beginning of a cradle-to-grave tire tracking system in Arkansas. Okay, that would be one. That would be news to a lot of people who don't listen to this program, right? That would be news to if you had the ability to get that message out with money, it would be over very quickly. And the only reason I know that, and the only reason I'm so confident in being able to say that, is simply because I know the people of this state and what you guys have been voting for what I've been voting for the last several elections, and it just screams limited government. Because if there were any, I vote for Democrats on the national level, but I vote for I vote for Republicans on the national level, but I vote for Democrats on the local level because I'm in the middle. Those people are gone because they saw what that got them because of Barack Obama. Because they actually realized, oh, wow, I'm not a supporter of socialism, and I don't believe we should all put our money into one giant pot and have it divided up equally amongst us. I don't believe that. Well, that's what Obama believed. That's what Elizabeth Warren believes. That's what Hillary Clinton believes. That's what the policies and the money connected to the state Democrat Party, they're implementing all of those. People figure that out. Just because so-and-so is my Sunday school teacher and he's a Democrat does not mean I say, okay, I'll vote for a Democrat. Those people are gone now, okay? It took a long time, but those people are gone from the majority of this state. Instead, people are actually looking at fiscal policy, economic realities, tax structure, spending. They want the government to operate the way we have to operate in our homes. And they do not believe in a government that creates the incentive for people to not be personally responsible for their plight in life if they can truly help it. We've got to take a break, up against a hard break. We got to go. Give me a phone call. Give me a text message. What do you think? 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Down there, that's what they want. They don't want people out there sitting there saying, "No, Asa Hutchinson, you're lying to people when you say we need to put bad people away," because you're just exactly what the facts say in that one tweet. You're letting bad people out on the streets early that need to be serving longer sentences to make our communities safer, and more importantly, quit overburdening law enforcement officers and probation and parole people who are out there trying to do everything they can. Don't sit there with a press conference and say these people need to work together better and that's the direction we need to go. You know what? A real leader and a real person right there would have sit there and said, I've neglected and I haven't taken responsibility in taking care of the measures with the budget. And, but he'll probably get Red Hatcher or something like that on state tax dollar time to go out and try and find people to run against the people that try and tell the truth about what's going on.
Senator Brian King, last question. We're in the middle of July, almost, and so the summer is going to be over soon, and that's when you're going to decide whether or not to seek re-election. But you're still sticking to that end of summer date, right?
Yeah, I'm still sticking to that. There's no sense, and I tell people all the time, I'm not out. Despite what Bob Ballinger's hoping, I'm not out. I'm not in. It's just a realistic thing on family decisions, everything. I said by September 1st, I would make my decision on what I'm going to do. That gives plenty of time for. There's other people that have been called. Asa and the little minions down there are trying to get other people to run, and that's fine. And I've had several people call me and say, if you don't run, Brian, I'm interested in running, and I appreciate that. But this is not my seat, and like I said, it's about competition of ideas and what you're doing, and like I said, Governor Hutchinson's more than welcome if he wants to sit there and try and go on the right path and quit misleading people. He's already been caught lying to people in my district. Okay, people up here in my district know the truth now about the appropriation bill and the DHS bill when he tried to mislead and deceive people when I said it was unsustainable. We need to make measures and cutbacks then to avoid the things that were happening. And he went out and said, if Brian doesn't vote for this, and he called me out personally. He misled people. And, like I said, I've invited him. If he wants to come up to my district and we can have a one-on-one, I'll sit there and lay everything out, but he won't do it. I'm more than welcome if Asa Hutchinson wants to come to my district and talk about this crime issue and why we are here, what got us here, and what we need to do to go forward. I'm more than happy to do that, but he won't do it.
Senator Brian King, I appreciate your time, sir. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks, Paul.
All righty, folks, we got to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Back in a moment.
Watch Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
It just dawned on me something quite humorous. Do you remember when Asa Hutchinson found State Representative Josh Miller a primary opponent? Josh Miller, one of the most conservative state reps that there is, and the governor went out and found him a primary opponent to try to unseat him, which Josh Miller promptly laid the smackdown on and just destroyed, electorally speaking. I think it's only fitting that Josh Miller just said that Tim Griffin should primary Asa Hutchinson. I mean, say what you want, okay? All right. Whether you're a fan of the idea or not, fair is fair, okay? Fair is fair. So I said earlier, so when Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, when he writes that letter a couple of weeks ago to the tax farce saying we've got a spending problem, do meaningful tax reform, don't just do revenue-neutral tax reform, actually shrink the size of government, get spending under control, all these things. I want to remind you what happened. He immediately got attacked from the Democrats. I don't know when the last time Asa Hutchinson has been attacked by the Arkansas Democrat Party. You've got far leftist organizations testifying before the tax farce commending Asa Hutchinson's tax cut on those that make less than that make less than $21,000 a year. Right? I mean, you have progressive groups commending his progressive policies. I don't know when the last time Asa Hutchinson got a legitimate attack from the Democrat Party of Arkansas outside of the campus carry gun debacle, which was just the optics on that are really distorted if you go read anything in the mainstream press about it. I just don't know. It was great. Tim Griffin laid out a conservative plan. Economic policy, really, really good stuff. And you know who immediately got nervous about it? The Democrat Party of Arkansas. They scolded him on Twitter for, well, since you think you should be part of this conversation. It was very much like elite. No, it's just elitists. Like, oh, Tim Griffin. You don't even need it. You don't even deserve. Lieutenant Governor doesn't even. What does the Lieutenant Governor even do? Why are you even here? How dare you? Anyway, that's what they said. Since you think you should be part of the conversation, Lieutenant Governor. Anyway, it was a reaction, the type of reaction that many people thought Democrats and liberal columnists were going to have on a daily basis when Governor Asa Hutchinson was elected. When Governor Asa Hutchinson was elected, people thought it was actually going to signal change in the state of Arkansas. And the only thing that changed was that John Brummett became a big government Republican. John Brummett became a supporter of Jim Hendren. That's what happened. John Brummett became a supporter of the Senate Majority Leader of the Republicans, Senator Jim Hendren. John Brummett became a supporter of Asa Hutchinson. John Brummett became a supporter of the Republican leadership in the Arkansas General Assembly. That's the only change that happened when Asa was elected, is that John Brummett became a rhino. Tell me, I mean, that may be one of the most accurate points of analysis I've ever made. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799 is the telephone number if you would like to contribute to the conversation. Moving on now, libertarians. Libertarians have earned a spot on the 18 ballot. So in 2018, there will be the Libertarian candidates on the ballot again. Michael Packow, who's the chair of the Libertarian Party of Arkansas, wants to see the state's process change because, you see, every year, perennially, you have the Democrats and Republicans on the ballot. They always have access. But the Libertarians, they have to go out and get petitions every year to get somebody to get their party on the ballot, right? He's quoted as saying, as far as ballot access goes, we really haven't made much progress there. I think the weakest part of the whole system of ballot access is it's limited to one single office. If you don't get 3% of the vote at the top of the ticket, then you're not a political party. So because that doesn't happen, every year the Secretary of State, once they get their signatures, the Secretary of State issues this proclamation that the Libertarian Party is a new political party. And it's strange because we all know libertarians aren't a new political party. They're a party. They're a thing that happens. And yet, it's almost as if someone somewhere wants to guarantee that you only get two choices, the R or the D. I mean, I'm sure the Democrats and Republicans like that system. In 2016, the party's candidate, Gary Johnson, received 2.6% of the vote in Arkansas, 2.6%. In 2012, he received 1.5% of the vote. So last month, the party submitted more than 15,000 signatures to the Secretary of State's office to become a new political party. Office's certification means that at least 10,000 were valid, the requirement for starting any new political party. Oh, so is that new? Did I just get that part of the story wrong? Does it not happen every year that they're a new political party? Nationally, the Libertarian Party now has ballot access. PACO said collecting the signatures through paid canvassers cost about $30,000 this year. PACO said the National Party had automatic ballot access in 35 states immediately after the 2016 election, but it failed to meet various requirements in 15 states, including Arkansas. Libertarians won recognition as an official Arkansas political party for the first time in 2011 after collecting more than 16,000 signatures. Now that the party is certified, PACO said its attention will shift to recruiting candidates. The party plans to hold a convention in late February. Yeah, so you have to forgive me, I'm kind of ambiguous on this story, or unclear, because I'm pretty sure they have to get signatures every year to do this. The state Libertarian Party has never met a threshold set in Arkansas law to automatically retain ballot access, as have the state Republicans and Democrats, and avoid a petition process. So there you go. So yeah. So every year they got to do this. They got to get these petitions. Got to work the system. In Northwest Arkansas, voters approved proposals in special elections. No surprise there, because special elections are where government goes to grow. Benton County. I don't know how to pronounce this. Joe, first of all, look up the population of is it Avoca? Avoca, Arkansas. Avoca. 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 Voters in Avoca. All right, 509 people. All right, so voters in Avoca approved Sunday liquor sales, while annual fire dues will go up in the Beaver Lake Fire District. In Washington County, Tontitown, voters approved. See, I'm sorry, I'm from Northeast Arkansas, and many people over there would probably be like, if there's a Northeastern it's a town called Goober Town, and they probably, is it? Am I pronouncing Goober? Is it really Goober Town? Yeah, it is. So Tontitown. So the Washington County voters, Tontitown voters approved a sales tax increase for a water line project. Okay. So the Avoca election was the result of a petition driven by two women, Stacy Lantham and Stephanie Zortman. I want to see the numbers here. The women collected 40 signatures on a petition to hold a special election, 2 more than the 38 needed. According to Benton County Clerk's office, the women will be assessed the cost of the special election, estimated at $5,000. According to final but unofficial results Tuesday. So you say 500 people in Avoca, right? 509. 34 Avoca voters, or 71%, cast ballots in favor of Sunday liquor sales, while 14, or 29%, voted against the measure. So out of 509 people, special elections win again, with 34 people voting yes and 14 voting no. Nothing like the consent of the governed, right? Nothing like it. Residents in the Beaver Lake Fire District approved by a margin of 612 votes, or 67%, in favor, to 306 votes, or 33%, against a proposal to double the annual fire dues in the district to allow the hiring of full-time firefighters for the fire department. So the Beaver Lake Fire District, special elections, where government goes to grow, well, they succeeded. Joe, try to figure out the population, and feel free to show it to us. The Beaver Lake Fire District. I'd love to know the total population of the Beaver Lake Fire District. So they're going to have full-time firefighters now. Then you go to Tontitown. The voters cast 143 ballots, or 72% in favor, and 56, 28% against a proposed 0.75% sales tax increase to allow the city to change its water supplier. Again, special elections where taxes go to be increased, where government goes to grow, where revenue is created in special elections. I think it is easily provable. It is not a wild speculation. Had these elections been held in a general election, the margins would have been much closer. And a town of 509 people, that's not a lot of people. But 34 people show up? That is a ridiculous statistic. What about the population of Tontitown, Joe? Tontitown. Tontitown, Arkansas. What are we looking at? Because 140, it doesn't sound like it'd be a large town. 143 people. That's 2,719. All right, so, okay. Well, 2,719. That's larger than I thought. So you got 3,000 people, and 143 people show up to say yes, 56 show up to say no. We know that the voter turnout margins would have been significantly higher than that had this been held at a general election. You see, I'm going to continue covering these special elections because I want to reiterate to you over and over again how the consent of the governed is an important concept. And knowing that you have the best representation of what the consent of the governed, what the will of the people is, it's better reflected when you have general elections on set days, and you don't have special elections unless you have dire special consequences or circumstances. So, for State Representative James Sturch, who thinks he should be Senate, State Representative James Sturch, who thinks he should be a senator, who's challenging Linda Collins-Smith. I don't know if Linda Collins-Smith has announced her re-election bid yet. So I'm not sure. But anyway, he thinks he should be senator. James Sturch single-handedly killed special election reform. It would have ended these special elections. It would have been the biggest thing to keep government in check of the session, and he voted for it. And when they sounded the ballot and they came around to him in the chamber, we have video of him getting up. He looks at his phone and gets up and walks out, and he not being in his seat means he was struck from the count, and special election reform failed by one vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we know why. We know why. If you look at where he works for a lobbying firm, and that firm is reported to work for the Arkansas Municipal League. And Arkansas municipalities love special elections for the very reason I'm telling. Well, you know what? If we want to create a brand new branch of government, a brand new fire department, let's talk about this for a second. Are there pros to creating fire departments, new fire departments? Yeah, of course there are. And local governments, you go for it. Do it all you want. Just don't do it in a special election. But are there also cons? Don't we have homes that are more flame retardant than ever? We've got substances, materials that are more flame retardant than ever, right? I support the consent of the governed. I'm just telling you right now, it's not the consent of the governed to do these special election in the middle. It's the Tuesday after the 4th of July, and they hold a special election. Okay, fantastic. They would have probably held it on July 5th if they could have, but July 4th was on a Tuesday this year. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. What do we have here? Tomorrow on the program at 5 o'clock, I'm going to preview this real quick. We will be talking to Senator Scott Flippo. He'll be with us again, talking about big picture conservatism stuff. We did this segment 3 weeks ago. It was fantastic about big picture conservatism. Somebody just texted me. Joe, somebody just texted me a picture of Batman. It's actually George Clooney though, but he's got the nipples on the bat suit. Yeah. We were earlier in the show. We were talking about the transition. I don't use that word in jest, the transition, but you went from a Tim Burton Batman one with Michael Keaton, and then Batman Returns, and then you went to Val Kilmer and Joel Schumacher. Val Kilmer, yes, they did. Joel Schumacher, there were. You just got to look for it. You got to look for it. I promise you, Joel Schumacher's Batman. That's when Joel Schumacher decided to flamboyantly add, nipples to the bat suit. So we got people texting me pictures of the bat suit. Let me see here. Somebody writes, I'm really surprised no one or you has brought up ACE's recent appointee to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Well, I haven't mentioned him by name, but because I'm not familiar with him. I don't know who this guy is. I can't even remember his name right now. But I did mention he had an appointment coming on Monday, and I used it to talk a little bit about the concept of Arkansas Game and Fish Commissioners and what if we got to elect them and how cool that would be. Because I think you'd have a lot more of the consent of the governed concerning one of the most powerful agencies in the state that governs, which animals belong to you, the landowner, or first belong to the state. I think those animals are God's gift to man, not to the Arkansas Game and Fish. Anyway, we're going to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in just a moment.
This is for all you big government establishment Republicans out there. Hope you're listening. I keep a close watch on these votes of mine. I keep my finger in the wind all the time. I vote big government, and you will pay with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. There's always an excuse not to shrink government. It's much easier just to toe that line. I find it very easy to be rhino blue. I find I'm not alone when failing to come through. Yes, big government, I'm a fool for you. 'Cause every time I toe that line. Legislative sleight of hand would be an accurate description. Or you could just say, they can't quit towing that party line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I'll vote big government both day and night. And act like I'm shocked when it all comes to light. 'Cause every time I toe the line. The phrase toe the line is the equivalent of toe the mark, both of which mean to conform to a rule or standard. You could also call it the status quo. Tax and spend, I'm always on your side. I love writing government checks that I cannot hide. Buying people's votes always turns the tide. 'Cause every time I toe the line. The Oxford Dictionary word histories. The idiom toe the line, from an athletics analogy, originated in the early 19th century. I hope you don't watch these votes of mine. Hope you don't see through the lies and slime. 'Cause I plan on spending with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. Toeing the line is what the folks down in Little Rock call progress.
PHP Parody.
I'm such an old man, Joe, because I'm sitting here and I've got all this pride. I'm like, you're telling me about your Batman merchandise experience when you were growing up, and you having these toys and these toys, and I'm very dismissive and very flippant of you because I'm like, you don't know about Batman toys. Only I know about Batman toys.
That is incorrect, sir.
But you know what I'm saying? It's so stupid and petty. I'm just like there's just a check in my whole attitude about it because I literally am like the old. It's like, yeah, you don't know about when we played with Batman toys. They were so much better because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, because you were telling me about the animated Batmobile it used to have. That when you pulled out the back, it turned into like a flying machine for Batman that was in the compartment.
But anyway, it's just funny to me. It's
Mine
like,
was better.
why? Yeah, it's like, no, it wasn't. You don't know what you're talking about. And how old are you, Joe? Because I see I'm 33 now. Am I 33 now? Yeah.
So I'm 23 and a half.
All right, so I'm 10 years older than you, and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, you young whippersnapper. Here, take a Werther's Original. Get out of here. Phone number 870-275-9799. So ridiculous. Our interactions with one another. David Crow on Twitter. The Democrats in Arkansas really like Asa except for campus carry stuff. Telling, isn't it? Okay, yeah. We were just talking about that. David must be listening. Well, hello, David. Somebody, I guess we need to tweet whatever I said earlier about John Brummett. I really think it was good. The only thing that changed when Asa was elected is that John Brummett became a Rhino Republican because he's supporting Asa every step of the way. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. What do we have left here in our news that we didn't get to today? We talked about... Oh, this is interesting. Listen to this. Sometimes, this is Andy Davis, sometimes the government's claims are so wrong, it's such a softball the media can't help but point out the hypocrisy. You see, I like it when press organizations point out hypocrisy by just reporting the facts, right? So, this headline, Arkansas governor touts aid for 500 disabled. Now, let me stop there. We're talking in this context about the developmentally disabled. There are people on a waiting list for care. Developmentally disabled people who are the truly needy among us, who can't do for themselves because of the plight that they have been dealt in life. And we do not care for those people in Arkansas, but we will pay for able-to-work adults who don't work to get free health care. It's so wrong and hypocritical, right? Listen to this, though. The media can't even... Sometimes the media has to report when you just softball it up there for them. Andy Davis writes, Governor Asa Hutchinson on Tuesday touted a new law that he said has already reduced the number of Arkansans with developmental disabilities who are on a waiting list for services such as help with bathing, dressing, and other daily tasks. But Brandy Hinkle, a State Department of Human Services spokesman, said later Tuesday that the services for the 500 people who are on a list of about a 2,000 people waiting list, but the services for the 500 people who are to be taken off the list haven't started yet. The department has verified the eligibility of 25 people who were on the list and has approved plans for their services, but those people must still take other steps such as choosing a service provider before they can start receiving help. So sometimes, it's too much of a softball for people, if you really want to be honest about it. I mean, the media's like, well, we contacted one of your agency spokespeople, the DHS that answers to you, Governor, and they say that they haven't gotten the services yet. So sometimes carefully crafted language. Well, sometimes the carefully crafted language, or the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, they take a day off, and then, that's kind of when it's kind of like when Obama, rarely wasn't able to be on teleprompter, and what a disaster those things were compared to when it was all scripted for him. Folks, buy our Liberty Machine t-shirts at paulharrell.com. For Mountain Talk 97, our audience listening on the great KJMT, you guys have one more hour of the program coming your way next. For the rest of you, Arkansas, thanks for listening. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.